Hey, co-authors. I'm really excited today because I get the chance to talk with Danielle De La Mere, who is the founder of Self-Compassionate Coaching and the podcast creator and host of Self-Compassionate Professor Podcast. She has over 200 episodes featuring guests who have paved creative and self-compassionate career paths, both within and outside of academia, after struggle. So let's dive in. Greetings, Danielle. It's so great to see you today.
It's so nice to see you too, Kyle.
Yeah, we're going to have a casual time. I have some questions for you as we enter into, I guess, the final weeks of the semester.
I'm still very much present to that, even though I'm not in academia anymore, because my community is all going through all the stuff with the finals week.
I was about to say, if there was a time for self-compassion and a little bit of self-forgiveness, it is the final weeks of any semester.
Totally.
Yeah. So just to kind of start us off, tell me a little bit about how did you get started developing your company and your podcast? Like what made you want to do that?
Oh my gosh, that's such a big question. It's like, how much time do you have? I will say that I had a really difficult time when I was a professor, a really difficult time. And I've come to understand it in newer and more nuanced and deeper ways. I had decided to go to Kristen Neff's workshop. It was a 2-day self-compassion workshop. And I went in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And when I was there, I realized that there were all these things going on in my career that I didn't feel sort of in control of. Not that I had to be in control, but I just felt like my career was like taking me on a ride as opposed to me guiding it and driving it. And so I'm at her workshop for 2 days and I just lost it because I learned how to like create space for myself. And I started to be like, oh, you're not feeling well. Like you're physically sick. You're emotionally just taken down. You're burned out. And I started making space to feel all of that. And I cried for the entire 2 days. And then I cried after for like a week or more. And it was after I went to that, I decided to do the mindful self-compassion teacher training. And I went to that intensive. And it was at that intensive that I was like, oh my gosh. Faculty need this so much. I'm going to start a practice and I'm going to call it Self-Compassionate Professor. And that's how it sort of started.
I think a lot of people within academia, especially early career faculty, really feel similar feelings to what you felt, right? This sense of always having one more thing to do. And as soon as I get this thing done, I have to go on to the next thing. And after a while, that becomes such a treadmill that you don't even really, unless you have a space where like a 2-day retreat or something like that, like it's hard to break out of that. So you said that you cried a little bit from that. Was that a crying of mourning of where you had been, of release? Where did that take you whenever you recognized and sat with that emotion?
Yeah, it was just such a release. I was like, wow, there is so much that I have been ignoring, so much that I've been avoiding, and I've like turned into it. Like, this is the reality. This is how I feel. And I get to cry about it because it hurts. And it's really, really hard to confront this. But it was a release. And that was like the first big step on sort of my journey toward career wellness. Not that we ever achieve career wellness, but,
Right.
more and more.
Yeah. Whenever you started to make that decision, I assume that you probably had a lot of talks with colleagues and friends and, getting a lot of advice about whether to make that transition, how to make that transition. So walk us through a little bit of that. How was that process working with other people as you were starting on this new path in your life?
Oh my gosh, Kyle. I love that you imagine that's what I did. That is not what I did.
Oh, no. Okay.
I think that like self-expression was a huge problem for me. And this is why when we talked before, we talked about like writing being something that I've struggled with. And so expressing to other people that I'm going to leave, expressing to other people that I'm feeling terrible, like that wasn't something that I sort of understood how to do. And I'm trying to think what I want to say about this. I would stop myself from expressing in the classroom by I would go in by over prepping. I would show up to class and just be very much like, okay, this question's going to be asked and then it's going to go like this. And then I'm going to say this. And I would practice it. I would over practice. And then there would be these moments in class where there would be like real dialogue. It would be really juicy and fun and exciting. But then I show up and tell myself to stop. No, no more of that. Don't do that anymore. You got to keep yourself in line, kind of like you have to keep yourself on track. And I did this with everything. I did this with my research. I did this with even service. Like I would sit in meetings and just not say anything. I would just be silent because I was always monitoring myself. Is this okay? Is this okay? And when I realized I wanted to start thinking about career wellness more and self-compassionate professor and wanted to start coaching, it landed on me in a faculty meeting of all places. I was like, oh, I think this is what I want to do. This would be so exciting. But then I didn't want to tell anybody because, again, it's like if I express myself, if I tell people that this is what I want to do, then I have to kind of own it. And if I own it, that means, when you're an academic, you at least have some status. A coach is like, oh, what are you doing? You're going to not be an academic to go be a coach? Like, what is that? And so I think it was just shame all the time. I was always trying to reel myself in. And so, no, I didn't talk a lot to people about weeding. There were close friends. I guess there were a couple really close friends that I would talk to about it. But it was very hush hush and I didn't want to say too much. And so I carried all that sort of toxic work habits with me when I started working on coaching. And that, it's just been such a journey to really heal.
Yeah. So, it sounds like perhaps mentorship wasn't really strong in your life, that you didn't have a lot of good mentors or people that really that you felt like you could confide in. And that feels like maybe some of the impetus for doing this business that you have here. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, how are you sort of helping people through this mentorship and giving them those resources that you didn't feel like you may have had whenever you were going through this?
Okay, so I want to name that I did have a really great mentor, but I didn't, it's like I didn't believe that I deserved it or something. And so I wouldn't reach out to her. And yeah, I think that's true. I think that connection that I was missing, I've really created in my community. We do circling work, which is like really deep, communicative work where we come together and really talk very, very deeply about career wellness issues. It is not abnormal for people to cry in my community. We really get into it deeply and we ask each other questions from a place of curiosity. We're always just trying to support each other and find refuge with each other. Because the one thing I learned when I first started moving into this space was I did a bunch of interviews with faculty. And the one thing that every single one of them said was, there's no place to talk about this. There's no place to talk about the overwhelm and the busyness and the burnout and the sort of pain I'm going through, psychologically and emotionally. There's no place to talk about it. My dean is just telling me to go do the thing. And my chair is too. And so that was the one thing I knew needed to happen, but it was a journey to get there. As somebody who always tried to avoid communication, as a former communication professor, that's so funny. It was a journey to sort of recognize and confront the fact that it is communication that we all need. It is the connection that we all need. And it's still just shocking to me that all of my clients are everywhere across the globe, and we meet on Zoom and have very real conversations, and we feel very connected. And who would have guessed? I guess before COVID, we would have never believed something like that was possible, but it totally is. And what do I want to say about it? I feel so alive every time I meet with my community. I walk out there just feeling like, yes. And this is what career wellness is. It's about feeling alive when you're at work and knowing that you can trust yourself and trust your own sort of genius and expertise and trust that the people around you are there for the common good, right? This is what career wellness feels like to me.
Yeah. And so you kind of hinted at this already, but just kind of drill down a little bit more. You work primarily with mid-career faculty, right?
Primarily,
right?
Yes. Yeah.
And we've kind of talked a little bit about, so, last week I was talking with you on your podcast. This week you're talking with me on mine. And so last week we were talking a little bit about how people make that transition from assistant prof to a tenured professor and how that a lot of research shows that like a lot of people sort of lose their way. They kind of spiral out as soon as they reach that spot. So talk to us a little bit about what are some specific problems or barriers that you're seeing time and time again among your clients with the people that you're working with in this mid-career space?
The one that just bubbles to the top is the sense of confusion. Like, what? I've done all the things. I have tenure. I'm exactly where I wanted to be, and I don't feel good. Like something is wrong. And I don't know what it is, and I can't fully understand what it is. And a lot of people, when they feel that, think that they automatically need to leave academia. Oh, well, it's like a flight response. I just got to get out. So that's one thing I'm always trying to like understand. Is this a flight response, or do you genuinely want to leave? That's a huge one. And especially if you get into like all the discourse around alt-ac, like there's some anger and some like, there's this like fight flight energy, like the system and blah, and everybody's so mad or so irritated with the way things work that they feel like they have no agency. They feel like there's nothing they can actually do. And so they got to just go. They just got to get out. That's just how it is. And I get it. Like, I know we have this like distinction between like, there's the system and there's this challenge with the system. And I totally understand that. And I don't want to discount that, but we can't put it all on the system and say, well, if I can't be happy here, that's because it's the system's fault. There are things we can do. And one of the big things that I see is that people need to digest their emotions. Because on the other side of digesting your emotions, you're going to figure out some things that you want to do for your career that you wouldn't have otherwise articulated. A lot of it is like fear. Like, I know I want to do that. And you might have this little glimpse of, I know I want to go in this direction. I want this research agenda, or I want to go, I don't know, work in a nonprofit or whatever, but you're scared. And so you won't let yourself touch it. You won't process your fear enough to touch it. Or you might be feeling shame. That's another big one. Like for me with I want to be a coach. It was so like embarrassing and shameful. And so I spent a long time telling myself, no, there's a way to do this inside your job as it is. Just there's a way. And I kept pushing myself to do something that I didn't actually want to do. And so those are some of the things. I think there's a lot of emotional digestion work that we need to do. There's a lot of like getting in touch with our inner wisdom, our inner voice, and like owning it. This is what I want to do. And then there's like taking action aligned with that inner wisdom. And that can be so scary for so many of us because we don't know how the people around us are going to react. And many of them aren't going to react well, right? And so it's this like, you have to own it and walk into it and do it with courage. And that requires community. That requires people around you to cheer you on and be like, you deserve career wellness. And that's why I have the community. It provides a refuge. And I will pause and say, I don't even know if I answered your question.
No, you did. But let me follow up a little bit here. So I think, to your point, one of the things that I see time and time again is that academics, and especially early, but some mid-career folks too, they kind of get into this trap where they think that productivity equals happiness. Mm-hmm. They're always doing something, and that something is not even always aligned with what it is that they actually want to accomplish in their career. But they get channeled in so many different directions that they just think, oh, well, I'm busy, so therefore I must be happy. And then, of course, they get to a point where they realize, because they're not digesting their emotions, they're not really in tune with themselves, oh, actually, I'm not happy. I'm just busy and stressed all the time. Mm-hmm. So how do you get people to that place to where they can slow down enough to really realize what's going on in their bodies and how they should be processing those emotions so that way they can start to make better choices?
Yeah. So we do pausing all the time in my community. Like we actually do relational meditation where we just sit together and name what we're feeling in that moment. One of the big ones for me is internal family systems, which I know is really, really popular now. It's like hip pop culture, but it's also academically sound, like it's research based. But internal family systems, IFS, we have these parts that are traumatized parts from, this time in our life when we were young, and they want us to do certain things. They want, like, for example, I can feel this one part in my chest, and every time I feel like I have to do something, that part in my chest tightens up and it wants to over effort. It's like, let's do this. We're going to push through and that part doesn't want me to trust sort of my intuition. That part wants me to trust it, to let it drive. And when I do that, I feel like out of touch. I feel ungrounded. I feel shaky. And so there's this process of like hearing your parts, knowing that they have important things to say, listening to them, and then seeing if you can make space for your inner wisdom and sort of let your parts detach a little. And so we do work like that. The relational meditation is letting yourself talk from your parts, like my part's really angry right now or whatever it is. And then it's like we enter this space when we've been doing it for a while. We might be 20 minutes in and we've all been like, our parts are saying things. And then all of a sudden, inner wisdom is starting to say things. And that's when we can often go into like a circle where we focus on one person. And that one person can talk about what they're dealing with in terms of the career wellness issues they're going through. And then we're all sort of in our place of wisdom where we're asking questions, not the parts place, not that, you need to just tell your chair to, shove it or whatever, but how's that, this sort of like, how is it landing when you notice you say that you're burned out? Oh God, when I think about myself being burned out, I think I don't want to be. And so I kind of want to run away. Whatever it is, these are kind of the things I'm doing to get people in touch with their emotions and get people in touch with each other. We're always trying to make space for inner wisdom so that we're moving in a direction that is aligned to that, as opposed to, like you said, aligned to the shoulds. This is what I need to be doing. This would be the strategic thing. No. Let's move in the direction that feels right to us, even though it sucks sometimes and it's super scary.
Yeah, and it feels like you're really trying to help people get out of a more reactive space, right?
Oh,
Where
yeah.
all these external things are happening. Some of them you can control, some of them you can't. So as a result, like if you're never really taking a step back and collecting yourself and engaging in both your personal and in this collective wisdom, then you really kind of find yourself maybe saying things that you shouldn't say, writing emails that you shouldn't write,
Oh,
and then
right.
kind of spiraling out as you become more and more locked into this sense of frustration and anger.
Will say that I work with predominantly women,
Mm.
and their sort of response is really pushing hard to keep up with everything and trying to please everyone and make sure they're showing up in the right way and protecting everyone and making them feel better. That's more of what
Yeah.
I'm seeing the most of.
That
But yes.
emotional labor.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah. So, kind of to switch gears a little bit here, you kind of mentioned your hangups with writing. And so that's what that's what my podcast is on academic writing and publishing. So talk to me a little bit about that. What are some of the hangups that you've had with your writing before? Maybe even before you left academia, or maybe it's one that you've had still ongoing for a while now.
Oh my gosh. We're like touching my sort of emotions that I'm still digesting. So I will say this. I'll just start here. My husband used to read my work when I was still in academia. And now he reads my writing. It's scholarship. Now he reads my writing. And he's like, there's a clear difference, like in terms of the quality of your writing. He's like, it's like before it was so mechanical and it's like you were trying to get to something and you couldn't quite say it with ease. And he's like, and now I read it and I'm like, wow, I didn't know you were that good at writing. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
Actually, my 12-year-old daughter heard him say that. And she's like, wow, Mom, that was right. But he's right. Like there was definitely a feeling of like, let's putting the brakes on. Like, oh, is that right? Oh, I got to put the brakes on and I got to read it. I got to make sure it's okay. No, it's not okay. It's this very perfectionist response, right? Go back and read and reread and reread. And I didn't do like just get it out there and then start doing the editing. As much as I knew that, I couldn't not do that. It was like, I was so afraid of messing. I was so afraid of looking like an imposter that I just, and so the experience of writing was a tight experience. Like I can feel it in my belly when I just think about it, and my chest just tight and like constantly self-monitoring. And I should say this, I stayed away from my writing
Mm.
after I left. I was like, I am not writing anymore. I am done. This is no way. I'm done. And I had experience after experience after experience where people were like, you need to write something. And then somebody asked me to write a blog. And so I'm getting all of these messages from outside that I need to be writing. And I have had to turn into my sort of trauma around it and my fear around it and work through it. And I will say that I have been so enjoying it. Like the ability to flow with it and tap into it in an intuitive way is so much different than I ever experienced it before. And I'm so grateful now that I get to experience writing again because I abandoned it.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that we talk about a little bit on the podcast is this idea of getting to a place to where you hit that flow state where you feel good about the things that you're writing and you kind of lock in, right? So for you, what are some things that you do that helps you sort of lock in? Are there rituals? Are there, a certain place that you have to go? What is it that helps you like get to that space?
I love that question so much. I feel like I just want to savor the question and just be in. Okay, so there's a coffee shop that I love. I will say that, and I flow there in ways I can't do. I don't think in other places. So there's that. How do I hang on? Let me check in here. Dialoguing with myself is a huge piece of this. Before, when I was talking about, we have all these little parts that are talking to us all the time and they're traumatized parts and we need to ask them to sort of let go. I do that in my writing. I will sit down initially before I write and be like, I'm feeling a lot of whatever right now. And then I will be almost coaching myself and be like, so what's that about? Why are you feeling that? Well, I'm feeling this because da 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 da. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, da 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 da. And I go back in this like question and answer way. And I can usually find a sense of grounding once I've done that. And I also notice I'm writing an essay for a collection right now about people who left after getting tenure. And in that essay, I'm realizing that there are things I want to say and I can't quite get to what my thought is until I have that dialogue. I have to go back and forth. Question and answer, question and answer. It's like I'm two different people writing back and forth. And then I'm like, that's it. That's what I want to say. And this is how I want to say it. And so that's been super helpful. The other thing is I tend to be really intuitive. And so when I first left academia, I was reading What Color is Your Parachute? And it's just like a classic book about careering. And I was like very much like on the alt-ac train of damn the academy. And at that time, I went through like what my skills were. I read through it and I did the exercises and I was like, oh my gosh, my number one skill is intuition? What? This is so weird. I had never thought of that before. And so when I just let myself just go, I generally can find a really nice flow, like embrace that natural skill of mine, which is intuition. We all have all these different skills. And that's one thing I'm realizing that if you kind of use that skill that is your primary skill to write or to do anything else, like you can really get to places you wouldn't otherwise, like at an advanced level.
Yeah. So I just want to reiterate. I mean, so if you're having problems getting started or you just have the terror of that blank page that keeps staring at you, I think that those two processes are really good. So first is the back and forth, right? Write things to yourself as questions that then you answer,
Yes.
right? Whether that's for your paragraph or your section or whatever it might be, like that back and forth, I think is a really good idea. And the second thing you said, which I also think is really good information, is just let it go. I see so many people who, whenever they're starting to write, they think that they have to write in a certain academic-y tone, and it's obvious that they're not writing the way that they think. They're not expressing themselves as themselves, and so their prose is really stilted and it's really hard. And maybe that was what your husband was talking about earlier, is like trying to emulate a person who's not you, right? And so being able to let go, I think, is really important too.
Yeah, and I guess I'd add to that practicing self-trust. I'm always being like, right? Like the a whole self-compassion thing that I learned from Kristen Neff and Chris Gerber, right? Like placing my hands over my heart, self-compassion break. This is really hard right now. This is how I feel it in my body. I am not the only one who feels this way. And then when I can get to that place of like feeling the inner wisdom, I can say to myself, and I know I have something to contribute. And I know I have something to contribute. I will often write that to myself while I'm starting the process because I often go into it thinking I don't have anything ever good to say. And then you just got to engage it, right? It's just about showing up. And so often it's just about showing up. Anyway.
No, and I think you're right. And I think that for a lot of people, the voices of that, imposter syndrome of who am I to write this? Who am I to talk about this are so loud that sometimes it's good to kind of talk back, right? And to affirm to yourself that you're doing something well and that you're the person who asked this question or had this hypothesis or whatever it might be. And that's why you're here, because you asked the question that no one else did. Right. And so that's, I think, a really good place to be at. So as you're thinking kind of back over the course of your career and the kind of twists and turns that it's taken, what would be some advice that you would have given yourself in like as your first year academic self? So if you could go back to first year, straight out of your doc school self, and you could give them some advice, what would that be?
I think I just said it. Like, trust yourself. I was so tight at that time. Like I remember going to a movie with my husband and like thinking about my dissertation the whole movie. Like I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch this. I'm going to use this time, right? Oh, I got some time to think through.
Never turning off, man.
Never, ever, ever turning off. And I thought that was a way to protect myself from being sort of outed as somebody who was an imposter. I think I would tell myself, Danielle, working all the time is actually making you worse. It's making you much, much worse. And you need to take breaks and you need to connect with you at your essence because I only knew the person who worked.
Right.
That's all I knew. What do I want to say about that? I kind of want to check in. Who I was so tense and so stressed and so sort of angry. And like, if anything got in my way, I would be mad. Like a student walks in, I need help with this. And it's not like I would be mad to the student's face, but inside I'd be like, oh, good. I'm trying to get this work done. And now I have to deal with this. Or even my own daughter, right? I had a baby and I was like, she's like in my way. I'm trying to get work done. So I think it would just be to be like, guess what? There's room for other parts of you. There is room for your essence. You have an inner wisdom. Like, let's just trust that it's there and let's open space for it.
I mean, that really resonates with me. I remember it was, I don't know, maybe 3-4 years ago that I had started to recognize that so much of the things that I had been doing in order to be productive was me working out of anger, right? And me using that anger as a catalyst to get things done. And being scared of letting go of that anger because the anger had been so productive for so long.
Oh, how interesting.
And so that was really hard for me of, okay, well, what does it mean to write in a place from joy? What does it mean to be a faculty member and a colleague from a place of not frustration about X, Y, or Z? Like, what does it mean to sort of recalibrate everything and just come at this from a much different tack? And that was very scary to try to be the same sort of productive person that I'd been, but from a different emotional space. So as you think about the sort of difference in your emotional space from whenever you were an academic and you were in that place of frustration and anger, and now that you're this totally cool, chill person, coach, what are the things that are motivating you now, and how do you tap into that sort of different energy?
I love the question. Again, I want to savor it and check in fully. The energy is one of showing up with love, wanting to like really make space in my heart for the people that I talk to, which is like totally the opposite of what I ever did before. It was like, stay out of my space so I can get work done.
Yeah.
Feeling enriched by other people and letting that connection drive my work, right? Like when I write from a place of like love, when I write from a place of compassion, there's a flow, there's like deep, stronger energy there than when I was writing from a place of, am I on track? Are people going to see that I shouldn't be here, that I'm an imposter? Like that energy is like, it is not very energizing. Like you do not get far with that kind of energy. And no wonder I burned out. No wonder I burned out. And that love energy, that like care, that like, there is like, I am grateful for being here. And like, I get to live this life and, I'm middle-aged and it's not going to last forever. And like that sense of gratitude, like that there is like an energy there that always reminds me to show up for my life. And I didn't have that before. And I like to show up for my life. I'm realizing, wow, this is really cool to show up for my life as opposed to avoid it so I can work a little bit more, right?
Yeah. Whenever you're writing now, do you find yourself sort of grounding that writing in particular people in your life now in a way that maybe you weren't before? Like, do you write to this person that you've coached, or do you write to this person in your life and have that sort of more grounded experience in your writing?
That's interesting. I think more it's like I feel like I'm held by everyone. Like I can feel the people that are in my community. I can feel my own family. And I will often like sit down and think of the experience of writing as a collective experience. Like I'm doing it with them. Like we're in this together. Like I've learned so much from them and they've contributed so much to my life and they're holding me while I write. It's not this lonely, like, oh, I got to get this done so that I get tenure or whatever.
Or I got to get this done so I can move on to the next thing and get that done so I can move on to the next thing.
Right? Oh, yeah. 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 And I will say this might sound super corny, but what the heck, I'll say it. I will imagine like the people in the coffee shop when I'm writing as being like, the sort of the namaste energy. I see the light in you. And so even people who are having a bad day and are saying, I don't know, gossiping or they're saying mean things to the barista or whatever, I really do work on trying to see sort of the love in everyone. And that feeling that when you're writing is really, really helpful.
That's awesome. Cool. I love that. And I love that energy. So before we go, I want to give a small amount of time here to let you talk about your podcast a little bit, say whatever it is that you want to say about it, and help people know a little bit more about the stuff that you're doing. So what is it that you're up to?
Okay, yeah. Self-Compassionate Professor is the name of my podcast. So yeah, you can find it anywhere you get podcasts. And I guess I would say career wellness is my focus. And I have a coffee chat once a month where people just come. It's free. It's, you just show up and we'll talk. And basically, it's making space for career wellness. So show up with whatever issue you're dealing with, whether it's a toxic work environment or you're struggling to know if you want to stay in your job or whatever it is. Show up. You can either be the focused person and we will listen to you as you sort of process and ask you questions and try to get shared understanding, or you can just sit there and listen to somebody else's processing. And I guarantee you will learn from somebody else's processing and you will find that you can personally relate in one way or another. So I invite you to one of our monthly coffee chats. You can check those out if you go to selfcompassionateprofessor.com and just sign up for coffee chats. So, yeah, they're
Awesome.
every Friday. I should say they are on Fridays at 1:45 Eastern every month.
Very cool. And I'll also have Danielle's information in the podcast description as well. So if you need to find it, I'll have all of her information there so you can find it there. Okay. So it was so great to see you again.
It was so good to see you too.
And yeah, I'll be checking out stuff out of your podcast. Again, that's the Self-Compassionate Professor podcast. Go listen to it. It's great. Danielle's great. And I will see you in next week's episode. So thank you so much.
Oh, yay. Thank you. Take care, Kyle. So much fun.
Hey, co-authors. What's stopping your best ideas from becoming your next big publication? Brilliant research shouldn't die in your drafts folder. Now's the time to bridge the gap between the possible and the published. You can support this podcast by subscribing to it, leaving a positive review, assigning it to your classes, or sharing it with a colleague. Let me know what I can do to make this the best podcast resource for you. And if you'd like to know more about my writing coach services, then you can find my information in the podcast description and set up an appointment. I'll be back next week with another episode. But until then, keep healthy, keep writing, and don't let reviewer 2 get you down.